Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady, and today's video is coming to you from the Botanical Gardens in Brisbane, Australia. This is an amazing public garden, free, open 24 hours, with restaurants and other cultural things included. It's just a big green space, kind of like Central Park, but with really incredible tropical plantings. Now, I don't know these plants very well, so hoping you'll just get inspiration from this video and not have a high expectation for botanical information because they don't have a lot of labels, and I can't say definitively that I know any of these well enough to just start rattling names off. But I do hope that you'll enjoy this tour, and if you ever have the opportunity, I highly recommend visiting Brisbane. It's beautiful, and it's extra exciting to be here in February when it is snowing in North Carolina. Well, one thing that I do know is that the staghorn ferns here are incredible, and they do grow naturally. I don't know if these were placed purposely just because they're all very symmetrical, and again, I don't know varieties or botanical information, but you can see these are much broader. That looks a bit more familiar with a more dissected foliage. And then of course there's tree ferns that are native here. Make me feel like I'm in Jurassic Park. Of course, tons of philodendrons and other plants that we would typically grow as houseplants. It's a lush, incredible environment. Well, you can see by the skyscrapers here, we're right in the middle of Brisbane. And it's just such an incredible resource. It's nice to see people sitting out, enjoying the space, having lunch. There's butterflies everywhere, and there's tons of different birds. I don't know what any of them are. I keep chasing them around. It's just such a beautiful environment. Again, you can see these huge tree ferns. Gotta love bromeliads, especially when they can be in the ground, planted permanently. This is a huge stand. They are so beautiful when they flower. So one plant that I do recognize is Nandina. This is of course kind of an invasive plant in North America, but probably also here in Australia. I'm sure this was not planted on purpose, just a seed, probably distributed by a bird, but it's a funny thing, the one plant I know is the plant that shouldn't be here. You know, I love touring botanic gardens everywhere. I wish there was more labels just so I could learn from the experience, but it's fantastic to be able to walk around and enjoy it. So many different varieties of ferns. I'm not even gonna try to identify. This is the rainforest section, appropriately named. You can see an incredible canopy of palms. And you know, I don't really even know houseplants very well because I'm not really a houseplant enthusiast, but the one plant that I do have is pothos. And here it is as a ground cover. Very effective ground cover. Of course, I haven't shown you any eucalyptus, which is ridiculous. And here I see one that's labeled Eucalyptus pilularis, blackbutt. And you can see that bark peels off, exposes beautiful white, super exfoliated bark. Behind there are more eucalyptus. I don't know if they're different species. Again, I don't have any expertise in Australian horticulture, this being my very first experience here, but I am really intrigued with all the plant material, especially the woody layer. But what I think is really cool is that they're actually growing quite a few North American native trees, including Taxodium. So a little piece of North Carolina growing here in Brisbane. Yep, right here behind me, Taxodium, the North American native bald cypress, growing extremely well. They also have quite a few Magnolia grandifloras, so just shows you that horticulture and gardening really is a global venture, and it's really great to be able to have a little piece of home when you are 10,000 miles away. Another really distinct tree here are the Araucarias, or the Norfolk Island pines. I haven't seen the really spiky monkey puzzles, but they've got these planted throughout landscapes all over. And they're so cool. I love their texture. I actually have jewelry made from their dried branches. It holds up really well. Well, here we have Araucaria bidwellii, and this is the biggest one I've ever seen. They can be a bit vicious because they're a bit spiky. It's a really cool plant. Well, this giant crazy fruit comes from Terminala bellerica. Not something that I'm super familiar with. The fruit is really heavy. I don't know if it's edible. It's an enormous tree. Another wish it was labeled plant. I don't know what it is, but it's really cool. And flowers are super interesting. I love that color. And in here we have a relatively formal garden with really immaculate turf and more celosia than I think I've ever seen in one place. When that grows out, it'll be really spectacular. I do think it's really odd to see azaleas blooming here in February, which is middle of summer. And I asked some of the people at the conference, and they didn't seem to think these were encore azaleas. I, again, with no experience here, have no idea. Just think it's funny that azaleas are universal, probably on nearly every continent. Azaleas and boxwoods. Another super interesting tree that I wish had a label. Look at that trunk. And it's kind of funny to see hostas. They don't look super happy. They kind of look like what they do in North Carolina. This is a very warm environment to be growing hostas in. And I think I see 2 small camellias planted inside of this boxwood hedge. Well, some plants that are familiar: gardenia, begonias, more boxwoods, and crepe myrtle. And behind me here is a gigantic specimen of Ficus microcarpa. I do hope that you have enjoyed part 1 of my tour of the botanical gardens here in Brisbane, Australia, and I hope you'll tune in tomorrow for part 2. As always, thanks so much for watching, and happy gardening.